Hey there, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to see those quick lube places. Jiffy Lube, Take 5, Quick Car, Lightning Fast, any name of them. Any of them, are they good? Should you be going there? We're going to find out. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Auto Repair Shop Truths. My name is Kurt Bennett and I'm going to be using my 26 years of automotive repair shop experience to guide you from start to finish, from picking the right repair shop and dealing with whatever they throw at you, and how to save you money, and so much more. Be it at a dealership or an aftermarket repair shop, I'm going to expose the behind-the-scenes workings and provide insights you won't find anywhere else, giving you the upper hand the next time that your check engine light comes on. You'll know how to pick the right shop, what to expect when you arrive at the front counter, how to handle the call that comes from the shop later on, and guidance on what to fix, and so much more. Nothing fancy here, folks, just auto shop repair truths. So let's get started on today's episode. So Jiffy Lubes and that sort of business model, it's been around a long time. I remember when I first started back at Saturn, and I'm thinking that was probably 1995, something like that. Jiffy Lube was one of the first ones to come around and have that kind of business model. Of course, the goal was quick, cheap, in and out, get it done. But just like the company Just for Brakes, or Just Brakes, where they focused primarily on just doing brakes and they got you in for $99.95 per axle, there was a lot of fine print and there was a lot of things that went wrong with those business models. Now, places like Just Brakes, and of course, depending on where in the country you're at, you might not ever heard of them before. And I'm not sure if there's any variants of those types of businesses anywhere across the country, but just to kind of give you a quick idea, Just Brakes pretty much advertised whatever year, make, and model, it's $99.95 brake job, front or back, just per wheel. Now, if you've ever gotten brake jobs before, you're probably used to between $300, $600, somewhere in there dollars for most cars. That doesn't go for Euros and, performance brakes like on Dodge Chargers, the Hellcats, and it doesn't apply to that. But therein lied the problem. When you came in, if you came in with grinding brakes where the rotors couldn't be reused, well, you're going to get that phone call, right? Hey, I know we said, and well, guess what? And that's where you got that. And they got a lot of lawsuits behind that when they did that. Now, I don't see them around now. And I didn't really because I would never try to take a car of mine to a business like that just because I know what I know about car repair. It's never going to be just that. Now, if it was being done at that time for $99, they had a deal with companies for brake jobs, for brake parts and things like that, to where they could keep like the cost of the pads low, and which passed obviously on the savings of the customer. And they would do something called a pad slap. That's where you're just basically going to take new pads out of a box, put them on your old rotors. That's bad in a lot of cases. At a minimum, you'd want to machine them to get a rough surface for the new pads to kind of seat into. And at a maximum, you'd measure the rotors to see if they could even take a machining or a cut so they didn't go below a certain thinness measure, so you could actually reuse them. You reuse them safely. So we're talking about quick lubes here, not brake places, but just to give you an idea, it's kind of a similar business model, and they've suffered because of that. Now, when I was in high school, we're talking about 1985, 86, senior year, I actually went and applied at Domino's Pizza to be a delivery driver. And I sat through the orientation and I never came back after that. I knew it wasn't going to be for me. Plus I had a 1970 Chrysler Newport Custom, 2-door hardtop with a 383 4-barrel, not the most economical car to be delivering pizzas in. At that time, the reason I'm bringing it up was Domino's Pizza was advertising 30 minutes or your pizza's free. And they did that for quite some time. Now, I'm not sure if Domino's started in 1986 or whatever, because I think they were around earlier than that. Maybe just they came to my area at that time. But that didn't last too long, because they came to the realization that, man, 30 minutes from order to time of delivery caused a lot of problems, a lot of unhappy people. a lot of free pizza. So the mindset kind of happened that way with Jiffy Lube. I remember at Saturn, when I was working there, I had a car come in making a real bad racket, real bad tapping noise from the engine. Got it in the back, and the tech said, "Hey man, there's a spun rod bearing." I say, "I checked the oil, there's no oil in this car." And so we got it up, and it looked like the drain plug had fallen out. Engines don't last very long without oil in them. Come to find out that the customer had just left Jiffy Lube, and when he went over there with his wife, he saw a trail of oil coming out of there, kind of like breadcrumbs, you know, like you might need to get back to someplace when you're lost. And so I was kind of, when I got that job, I was excited, while at the same time kind of not so excited, because I knew this was going to be an engine replacement, and I knew that they had said they had just came from Jiffy Lube. And so I'm thinking, man, I'm in for a hell of a fight. I mean, Jiffy Lube's going to deny this up and down and all this good stuff. So I called Jiffy Lube and talked to the location the customer had been at, and I was told that the manager was going to come by and look, you know, basically confirm what we were finding. And sure enough, he got there, and where I was expecting a fight, he just went out, he looked at the car, made sure that his sticker was in the window, came back, says, "Okay, just send us the bill." Wow, you know. And at that point, they had been around for a while, and I had heard of that happening. There was a lot of reports about that happening. That was my first exposure to it, but it was a real thing. So I guess Jiffy Lube was just used to that being the case, and any fight they might have had in the beginning, or possibly disbelief, had by then pretty much changed to, well, yeah, that sounds about right. Now, like I said, these companies have been around for a while. Since Jiffy Lube, which I believe is kind of the pioneer in that sort of thing, there's been other ones that have come about. Take 5 is one of them. Again, depending on the part of the country you're in, you probably have something similar, but maybe they're not named that. But any place that from their business model is basically geared towards to get you right in and get you right out for the cheapest possible price. And that's kind of the business model for these type of places. It reminded me of like the way they come up with these names. It's like, remember when 7-Eleven or Stop and Goes, they first came out and then they closed down, but because they had the name trademarked, nobody could use them. So you were starting to see, you know, shops that were doing the exact same thing as Stop and Go, but couldn't use the name. So it'd be like Stop and Shop or Quick In and Out, or, you know, Get It and Go or something like that. So similarly, these quick oil change places kind of have done the same thing. Now, Take 5 is one of the newer ones that I've seen, and they take it even a step further, where, as you may know, they don't even have you get out of the car. So as you're sitting there, you know, eating your breakfast, drinking your morning coffee, whatever you're going to be doing, they're out there underneath the car, draining the oil, changing the filter. You're listening to the radio, and so primarily their goal is to get you in and out as quickly as possible for as cheaply as possible. I worked with a young lady. She was a cashier at a repair shop I was at, and she had asked me, "Kurt, you know, what do you guys charge for a oil change on my Volkswagen Passat?" And I calculated it up, and it was about $110 for her car because of the type of oil that they use. It was a Euro synthetic 540, and the type of filter was a cartridge versus a spin-on type. And so she goes, "You're kidding me." And I said, I was expecting "you're kidding me" to mean like, that's highway robbery. But she said that she'd taken her car to Jiffy Lube, and Jiffy Lube had charged her $105. And so she was saying, "You're kidding me," that there was just like a $5 or $10 difference from what I was wanting to charge her. And she knew our business model was we fully looked the car over top to bottom, checked and topped off the fluids, checked and adjusted the tire pressures. We see a leak, or we see some failure going on, we report it, quote it, and all that stuff. And Jiffy Lube wasn't doing any of that. And so she was shocked that there wasn't that big of a price difference. Now, over time, these places, just by design, have had to move away from just doing oil changes, get you in and out as quickly as possible, and the cheapest available, because these cars today are coming out with weights of oil 0.20, 0.15. I mean, it's almost like water. They didn't even look like oil. You pour it into a cup and you slosh it around. You swear you're sloshing around a cup of water. It's real thin oil. Now, most of these oils are synthetic oil, and they have very few distributors offering it. In other words, for example, 0 weight 20 oil, synthetic oil, popular for Toyotas and Hondas. As of this recording, they're not available in a synthetic blend. It's only available synthetic. And so you can imagine if you're pricing a $59.95 oil change and you're pricing oil for that type of Honda or Toyota that takes 0.20, you're going to have a hard time meeting that price point. And now it moved to 0.16, and that's a specific synthetic oil. So they haven't been able to stick, just like Domino's Pizza, they can't stick to that 30 minutes or it's free or $59.95. You're going to get the updated cost when you get there. Now, in terms of what all's done during a visit to a place like that, you got to keep in mind there is an overhead to deal with at a shop like that, right? So you don't have the best of the best doing your oil service. You might get a stripped drain plug. You might get a drain plug that was put back in crookedly. So the next oil change you get, right? The next oil change, 5,000 miles down the road, they go to take that drain plug out and it strips it because they fed the threads in incorrectly. Or they didn't put the oil filter on tight enough. So you leave out of there and you call them back, say, hey man, I got oil in my driveway. What's going on? Well, bring it back up here. We'll check it out. And turns out it was a loose filter. Or I wouldn't say worse than that, because I would think a loose filter losing oil would be worse because it can kill your motor. But if they over tighten, I can't tell you the number of times we got cars in that had been to a Jiffy Lube or a Take 5 and the spin-on types were on too tight. It took a lot of extra effort, a lot of creative attempts to get it off, and finally did. But then where the cars have these cartridge filters where you take off a plastic cover, you put on the filter and you put the cover over the filter, those would be on too tight, and many times we went to take them off and they cracked and they had to be replaced. So yeah, you got all kinds of poor transient workers in places like that, and as you pull up and the guy comes out to talk to you and he smells like weed, that's kind of the level of folks you're getting. Now, if you smoke weed, more power to you. If you do it especially for medicinal purposes, more power to you. But for a person working on my car doing very specific things that can cost me an engine, I don't need you smoking weed during a time like that. There's that, and the type of customer service you get at a place like that, it's horrible. It's horrible. But what they've had to do was in trying to be more profitable, they've had to move on to offering things like air filters, coolant flushes, transmission flushes, brake flushes, things like that. And so now, yes, they are recommending things like that, and they have the equipment there to do it. Again, when it comes to your transmission, okay, if they stock just a universal fluid, some of these transmissions these days are fairly specific in the type of transmission fluid they're using, particularly like, for instance, currently, Fords and Chevrolets have a 10-speed transmission. Prior transmissions, like for the Chevrolet, you had a 6-speed, then they moved to an 8-speed. Now they have a 10-speed. And the importance in that is, with those type of transmissions, whereas the older transmissions were shifting 6 times, right? First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, third gear, second gear, slowing down, back to stop. Well, the transmission interval for that type of fluid to be serviced out was averaging around 90,000 miles. Now that depends, obviously, if you're in an area where they have like what's called a severe service area, where you're in heat, many months of heat for a long period of time, like say in Arizona, Nevada, Texas, places like that, as opposed to San Diego, California, where it doesn't get very hot at all for any length of time. That would be more of a normal service scheduled area, whereas in Texas and these hotter states, it's a severe service. Do you tow with it? Do you haul with it? Okay, that's gonna heat up the transmission, wear it out faster as far as the fluid's concerned. So the intervals for a 6-speed at that time were averaging around 90,000 miles. That's when they were recommending you change it out. Now with the 10 speeds and the 8 speeds even, because there's 2 more shifts on an 8-speed versus a 6, or 4 more versus a 6 on a 10-speed, that fluid gets burnt through quicker than what it did with a 6-speed transmission. So the intervals, the recommended interval to change it, moved to 45,000 miles. It's not the cheapest transmission fluid service to do. However, 6, 8, 10 speed, they don't all take the same transmission fluid. As a matter of fact, some of these Fords and Chevys will start experiencing a shudder when that fluid hasn't been changed out, because the fluid you're going to use for that type of vehicle is an ultra low viscosity type fluid. It's not a universal fluid. It's not the same fluid that's going to work in a 6-speed transmission. And if these yahoos at these quick lube places don't know that, you probably don't know it either. And so if they're going to service your transmission and they put some incorrect transmission fluid in your car and you don't know it, all you are going to know is that all of a sudden you have shifting problems. And in some ways at 45,000 miles, 50,000 miles, you might be saying, hey, dang, this thing's shifting kind of oddly. Well, good thing I've got a powertrain factory warranty that'll take care of me. I'm not worried about it. I'll take it into the dealer. Dealer calls you back, say, sir, yep, needs transmission. You're right on that, but we've sent this transmission fluid out for a sample because we don't show any history at the dealership that you did it. Well, I did it. I know I did it. My boys at Jiffy Lube did it. Well, yeah, we're sending out this sample and we got it back. And that isn't the type of fluid in that transmission that should have been used. So guess what? You're out of luck. You ain't going to get a transmission at no cost. So then you might, you can imagine the nightmare that might be involved. You got to go back to Jiffy Lube and say, hey, when I was in here, you guys, you don't even want to go down that road. And so you've got to make sure the right fluid's being used. And at these Jiffy Lubes and places like that, let's not even talk about the employees. Let's talk about the management. They don't have the best of managers in there either. A manager is going to try to make sure that stuff like that doesn't happen. And so they're going to need to be on top of the game. Well, you haven't got that good of managers at places like that either. You can imagine the type of management that would be needed to manage a crew of, I'm just going to say it, some little derelicts, and just hope they come into work that day, much less make sure that they're doing their job correctly. Right filters, right engine oil, right transmission fluid, things like that. On some European makes, power steering fluid, right? It doesn't take a regular power steering fluid. It's going to take something called Pentacin. It's a unique mineral oil used for those kinds of cars. Sure, you're going to get your fluid changed with whether it be power steering, transmission. Will you notice an immediate issue? No, it's going to be weeks, months later. Now all of a sudden something ain't right, and will you put 2 and 2 together at that point? Maybe you won't. But in the end, the goal is to get this thing serviced. I mean, who wants to do that anyway? My car's steering fine, my transmission shifting fine, and yet it's time to do these fluids. I'm not real happy or excited paying for this stuff when everything seems to be working all right, but I know that if I don't, I could have some issues. So yeah, go ahead. And you end up getting screwed anyway, just because you took it to one of these quick lube places. Even some Honda vehicles, right? They take Honda power steering fluid. You can't just put regular type power steering fluid in those vehicles. You're going to have power steering pump failures, power steering rack failures. I get it. You think you're going to get in there, not only get it cheaper, but get it done faster, and you pay the price. And you pay it in time as well. In one of my other videos, I talk about trying to find the right shop and kind of the tactics you can use and the things you can look at right when you walk in a shop to kind of figure out if you're in the right place or not. I can get on a website for a repair facility and I can look at those reviews, and I hunt for the bad ones, because I know when I'm reading that review, especially if you've got tons of other wonderful reviews, and this one review says, and I walked in and he said, get the hell out of here, threw my keys at me. I don't believe that happened, okay? It's just, if you have a business that has 60, 70% outstanding, I love this place, this is the only place we go, and yet you've got one, if I could give it less than 0 stars, I would, and they threw my keys at me. That didn't happen. I'm sorry. You're not going to have, even some people just have a bad day. I get it. You're not your best every single time. Do you give your best every single day? No, nobody does at any job you're at. But would it relegate down to having your keys thrown at you? I'm sorry. I'm not that hound don't hunt. So the best way to kind of get through some of this stuff is, and believe what I'm telling you, is just go to the website, go to the reviews. Oh my gosh, there isn't 60-70% of 5 stars with raves. I love this place. It's like flipped. It's like maybe there's 1 or 2 or 3 that's got some 5 stars on there, and who knows, it might even be some of the employees there trying to help the company out. But 9 times out of 10, you're just going to see this myriad of just disasters, and you can't look at that and then decide in good conscience to go in there and give those guys a chance at your car. I'm sorry, you just can't. And it's interesting, big these days, and I'm sure you've seen it, is no matter when a bad review is given, at the reply to the review, to me it's pointless, because the respondent says, "We're sorry we didn't meet your expectations with this visit. Would you be willing to call us and give us more information on it?" Well, what more information do you need? You have a service visit showing my car being in there. You see the date the review was written. You can go in and you can find me in there. What more do you need? You're just acting like you're interested in fixing the problem. And that's almost every response. I mean, some of these responses are novels, right? They go into great detail. So if the ownership response is, "Oh, we're sorry we didn't meet your expectations. Our goal is to meet your expectations every single time. Would you please call me at this number so we can get a little more detail on what happened?" I'm going to imagine that there's been a percentage of people that actually took that extra step and called in and attempted to give a little bit more information. But if that was the case, you would think that whatever happened, whoever did it would be there, and you would have a change in the reviews that would come after that. And that's not the case. They're all the same still. So very important to go to the website, especially on those. Now, if you happen on one, maybe there's a guy out there where he grew up and his goal was to have a business that was a quick lube place that would be the best on the block. And he just spares no expense to make that happen. Well, maybe he's got a website there, or on Google, Yelp, Carfax. It's got all these 5-star reviews. You can trust that. You know, go ahead, take your car over there. I mean, just look at his reviews, look at what he's got. But like I said, in an interest to increase their profit margins and things like that, they're starting to offer these flushes. They're starting to offer filters and things like that. And one of the filters that you would check in a situation like that's the cabin air filter. Now, these are inside the car on most every vehicle. And to get to them, you have to pull the glove box, pull all the stuff out the glove box, get in there, pull it out. Can you imagine sitting there while that guy's over there doing that? And here's your cabin air filter, ma'am. And their mindset on it is, if you can get the customer to lay their eyes on that, the chances of you selling it go way high, right? So if I pull this thing out and it's got some rat droppings and it's got dead dragonflies in it and stuff like that, and I show it to you, you're going, "Oh yes, please change that." You know, same thing with the engine air filter. They'll walk it up to you while you're sitting in there, you know, interrupt you while you're taking a big old bite of your bagel, and you know, say, you want to get this done? It's an air filter, it's dirty. Same thing with flushes and stuff like that. Now, obviously what happens then at that point? You came in, you're sitting in your car, you've decided, you've bought what they're selling, they want to give you a transmission fluid service. Well, that's not a quick turnaround. That takes it from the take 5 to take who knows how long. And I read a lot of reviews based on that. And so on the one hand, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, so they went in for a 5-minute oil change and it took 20 minutes. That was a common theme in those reviews. Take 5 my ass, it was take 25 or whatever. I mean, some people are so, it's the, 6-minute abs, those kinds of things. We buy into that stuff, and then when it doesn't happen in 6 minutes and another person comes out with a 5-minute abs, well, you feel like you got cheated. Well, I've been doing 6-minute abs for all these months and I could have had it at 5 minutes. We're pretty stupid, aren't we? I mean, don't be stupid. I mean, you're not going to go in there and get a 5-minute oil change. Hell, it would take you that long to just ease into the bay, put your car in park. I mean, a good portion of that 5 minutes is already taken up. So don't be unrealistic with these places. It's a gimmick. It's meant to get you in the door. You know this, or you should know this. You're an adult. But that was where one of the main themes of the complaints were in the reviews was the fact that, now I've been here an hour and a half, and well, yeah, it will do. you'll need that much time to do a transmission fluid service, plus what they already did for you. So again, going back to the employees, if you get your oil changed today and come back in 6 months, that same guy probably isn't there. They're very nomadic. Okay, they have, if they're working there, they probably couldn't get a job at a regular repair facility. And so they just keep bouncing one to the other. And when they're hired, there's not much scrutiny in where they've been, why'd they get fired, and all that go, because you need manpower to fill these roles. And you're going to be paying bottom basement as far as pay goes, with spiffs on things that they sell. Air filters. You sold an air filter, you get an extra $1. You sell to flush, you get $5, you know, whatever it is. So they're selling stuff. They also don't take much time looking at Carfax service history. You know, if they recommend a transmission fluid service, you might have just had it done 8 months ago, about 2,000, 3,000 miles ago. They're not really interested in checking any of that. They're just going to kind of do like a barf out these flushes that are due by mileage. And they're not much interested in that. Regular repair facilities, and it's more from a point of not wanting to appear that they're just trying to sell you something. They will actually look at Carfax service history. And if it's not in Carfax service history, it will either a couple different things. One, it didn't get serviced at a repair shop that reports to Carfax, which there is that, or dad did it for you on the weekend when he came home from school, something like that. So it's not going to be in Carfax. So, but they're just going to recommend this stuff. They're not looking, they're not trying to look, they're just trying to get you in and out and give you what you paid for. In that after the repair or after the service complaint and pursuit of getting something handled, like let's say in that example I gave you about Jiffy Lube, where the guy came out and approved the engine just like that. That isn't the case. At least that's what I've been reading on the reviews. Now, I went to several different places, and even with Jiffy Lube, I went to different locations in my area and read the reviews. And in those instances where they had lost enough oil to damage maybe the engine or something like that, and they were told to, okay, please call our corporate number and all this stuff, corporate responses were non-existent. I mean, they would come back in and update the review, which you can on Google. You can go in there and update the review in case you got taken care of. You want to go update us. Hey, I initially was pissed, but Tom at so-and-so took care of us. Good going. We may be back, you know. But so many of the reviews here were saying that they were told to contact corporate. Corporate never called them back and things like that. So you're pretty much on your own, and there's not much recourse unless you want to spend a lot of months and a lot of time hiring a lawyer, which I'm sure that's happened, or you can just save yourself all that effort, go to a legitimate place, a legitimate repair shop. Once again, we're talking about looking at reviews, listening to friends, so that if something happens, these people are well established, a smaller shop in the community. They've got a lot to lose when something goes south like this, and they're not going to let it go away. They're not going to let it get away. They're not going to fight you tooth and nail. So it would get taken care of. Whereas a company like Jiffy Lube, Take 5, all these bigger corporations that got the money but don't want to let go of it, they'll see how much fight you got in you. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. They're not really interested in the bad review because they feel there's still going to be enough people out there that want that cheap, quick oil change. You're not really going to hurt them that much. In the end, I think what's happened is they've grown like a tough skin now, where they fully expect these part-timers to mess up. They fully expect it. They've kind of gotten this real tough skin now, where when someone comes in, you know, they're not just starting out, they've been around for a while, they're established, they've seen this and they've weathered this kind of storm, and they can weather yet another storm coming from you. Now, we were talking about a lot of the employees there, their inexperience and things like that. You know, I think a lot of times people today, when they go to a regular repair shop, they go in for a check engine light or some noise, and yes, they determine what the check engine light is, they determine what the noise is and give you a quote to fix it. But then they also offer up all these different things they found during the free, no-cost, complimentary bumper-to-bumper check of the car. A good service advisor, as I've mentioned in the past with some of these other videos, is they'll take that and, hey man, if you want to get it all done, sure, let's do it. But if you're on a budget, it's getting close to Christmas time, you know, it's spring break. If I give money to do all this crap, I won't be able to take my family to Disneyland in my car. I mean, a good service advisor is going to prioritize that stuff for you, right? He's going to sit there and say, well, here's safety. Your brakes are grinding, bad scene, you know, nobody's going to be happy if something happens. Hey, and your wheel's about to fall off. This wheel bearing has seen better days. I definitely knocked these two things out. But you know what? This transmission, brake fluid, and coolant service, when you get back off your trip to Disneyland, at your next oil change, let's just start knocking those off one at a time. All right. The most important one, due to the component cost, would be the transmission. Right. Let's knock that one out. And then coolant, so we don't have a water pump, radiator, one by one going out, and so on and so forth. Well, that Jiffy Lube in there, they're just they may be looking dead at something that is life-threatening, and those guys have no experience whatsoever to tell you that. So on the one hand, you have a repair shop that would look at it, identify it, and present it to you, at least let you know 100% of what's going on with the car, right? So you get a full picture of what's going on with this car. You have to fix everything? No, but at least you know. Versus walking out of there paying about the same for an oil change that you would have at the regular repair shop, and these guys have gone through and just recommending fluid services basically. All the while they're up underneath the car and they never did see this control arm bushing is about to fail, and you have a control arm or a ball joint, something like that, fail at speed on the freeway. That's catastrophic. There's a drawback to letting these guys do the oil service on your car. I mean, they're not going to see the thing that's right in their face. They're not going to know about it. They're not going to know if that's what it's supposed to look like or not. I mean, we've had to do things like, hey, I got my oil changed at Jiffy Lube. My check engine light's on now. I mean, it came on like moments after I left. I'm not going back there. The whole service was janky and all this stuff. Can you tell me what's wrong? Yes, in order to diagnose it though, because who knows what they did, I don't know. There's a diagnostic cost involved. I'm gonna have to test for what happened. And so you go in there and you find out, it's a mass airflow sensor code. It turns out when they lifted the air filter box, the mass airflow sensor is right there. They pulled the wires out, or broke the wires, or they disconnected the connector to the mass airflow sensor to give them the freedom to pull that box off, to look right in there and see the filter. When they put it down, they forgot to plug it back in. So now your mass airflow sensor isn't telling the computer how much air is coming to the engine. So there's those kinds of things, not even counting the oil leak issues after the fact. I remember a customer had an oil change done at one of those places, came in. The shop, if it's a good shop, if they start taking this oil filter cap off, remember I was talking about there's the cartridge type with the plastic filter cover cap on it. As they go to take that thing off and they notice that, man, this thing is it's like somebody used a breaker bar to put this sucker on. We'll call you first. Say, hey customer, this is what we got. Now I got to get it off to do the oil change because that filter's dirty in there. I had to change the filter. But I have concerns that if we really put some real elbow grease on this thing, that this cap can break. Are you okay with us proceeding? Most people say yes. The caps themselves aren't that expensive to replace. I think they're $20, $30, $40 somewhere in there. And as a matter of fact, a company called Dorman, which I've spoken about before with engine oil coolers, they've actually made them out of aluminum now. And so they're stronger. They're a little bit more resilient to issues like that. But we're going to call you first and say, hey, if I take this off, it's going to crack. And if it cracks, you're in for whatever repair there is. Most of the time, it's going to be the oil cap itself. And but there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of the check engine lights on after that, or something like the mass airflow sensor issue, the trail of oil leading from the place, just various things like that. You had enough time to get your oil change done. They did it as quickly as you thought they were supposed to do it, and now you're having to invest even more time and probably more money to now do it right. So there's an old saying: there's never a time to do it right, but there's always time to do it over. I'd encourage you not to put yourself in that position. The cost isn't saving you that much. The guys are gonna look dead at something and see something wrong that they should tell you about, but they just don't know that's what's wrong. They don't know that is an issue. And so you don't really save yourself a lot of money doing it that way. The turnaround time, if they get lucky and they do it all correctly, yeah, you won out on 5 minutes, AKA 20, 25, 30 minutes actually of turnaround time. So I'd encourage you not to use them anymore if you are using them. If you were thinking about using them, hopefully this video is going to help kind of give you some of the drawbacks. Now, I will say to end, does that type of thing happen at the regular repair shop? Do they forget to plug back in the mass airflow sensor? Do you have to come back a few days later because you're seeing some drips of oil in your driveway? The answer to that, yes. The trick is, if anything's happened as a result of that, that shop's going to respond in the way you would expect them to respond, and they're going to respond quickly because they don't want the bad press. I mean, it's just they're going to get it taken care of. And it's not from, in times like that, it's not from the technicians not knowing what they're doing. It's not like at Jiffy Lube where the technicians aren't seasoned lube techs. It'll be because they got lazy and didn't replace the little rubber drain plug gasket on the drain plug. It'll be something like that. Or when they drained the oil, some of it got into the cross member, the perforations in the frame of the car. So as you drove and it set, some of that oil that drained out got into that body parts and is dripping out its residue. They didn't clean it good enough afterwards, or they cleaned it really well, but it's hard to get it out of every little nook and cranny. That's going to be more the case. Okay, that's going to be more the case. Any one of these places, I found, by and large, can forget to reset the engine oil maintenance message or light and things like that. Now, one of the reasons they'll happen at a regular repair shop is because the light's not on when it comes in there. Now, these doofuses know, or they're supposed to know, whether it's on or not. Reset the reminder, because if it's not on, and let's say you were going to go on a trip, you came in 500 miles early to get it done so you could take the trip, we didn't reset it, well, in 500 miles, the reminder is going to come on. These cars are not smart enough to know that they got their oil change done. They literally aren't. These systems that people think are so smart that you see 17% oil life left. I gotta get in there, I've only got 17% oil life. No, it's not that smart. It's not that critical. So when they forget to reset the light, that light's still gonna come on because it's basically going off mileage is what it does. I know Toyotas, for instance, they usually set theirs for 5,000 mile intervals. So that light's gonna come on. It's gonna start blinking and then go off. For the next few days, that's what'll happen. But as you inch closer to that interval, that light's gonna blink and then suddenly stay solid. It's trying to remind you. Now on my cars, because I use synthetic in every one of them, I put on my little label that I put up in my family's and my own windows, a 6,000 mile interval. And I tell them, when that light comes on, ignore it because it's not time. Watch the label. That's what you want to look at. And I'd encourage you to do that too. If you don't drive very much, say you're an elderly person or you've retired and you just don't drive that much, change your oil once a year. If it sits in the driveway for most of that time you drive 3 or 4 miles a day, the cold starts can kind of let fuel get down into the crankcase and mix with the oil down there and kind of, so about once a year you want to change your oil out. That's it. But on the reminders, that's one of the things that are kind of similar between these places is they always forget to reset the reminder light, even though they promise you they will. So we're both guilty of that. I hope this has helped you. Again, like, subscribe, send some of this stuff to your friends and family. I really want to help you and them through you. So I appreciate your time. Thanks. I'll see you next time.